I'm back again, and I'm trying to keep warm under the quilt because it's really cold out today. And it's cold and rainy out, which makes it a perfect night to read stories. At least in my opinion. There's nothing like crawling underneath a nice warm blanket and reading on a day like that when it's rainy and gloomy outside. I don't get a lot of that where I am. Anyway, so a big thank you to everybody who tuned in on Friday. I know that was a super long one. It might be a long one again on this coming up Friday. We'll see. 'Cause I didn't math it out. I think it's going to be big, which is fine. It's a good way to kick it off. But I mean, even then, the chapters aren't very big this time around. Don't worry. Later on this year, I'm going to be reading a different story, and it is very, very long, and I have to read chapter by chapter. It was one of the last things I was reading on here before I took a break, and it was very, very long, and I didn't finish it. So kind of finish the story, and then go from there. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be editing it this year, though. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be publishing it this year. That's fine. Neither here nor there. I'm gonna not take too long because I was up very early this morning. It's a Monday, so I am very low energy today, which is good because these chapters are extremely short today. So, without further ado, I'm currently reading, and I figured it out. It's called Deputy and the Gifts, which I didn't change on Twitch. I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna change the title after when I do the highlight. So I'm sorry. I'm working on it. It's a work in progress. I am, yeah. I will endeavor to make it better, to make it findable, that sort of thing. It's a goal. Anyway, without further ado, I'm going to continue reading chapters 14 and chapters 15. Chapter 14 and 15. There we go. The bandit did survive the journey back to town, and was locked away until such a time as a trial could be held. Did I mention I'm going to be editing? I'm going to be editing. Also, we're about halfway through the story right now. So, if for ease of use, if you're just tuning in, I highly recommend going back to last podcasts and watch through them really quickly, and then you'll be able to get caught up and be able to listen to tonight's, because otherwise it won't make a lot of sense because halfway through a story. Anyway, neither here nor there. Kaithether, immediately upon hearing the story of the confrontation with the bandits and the capture of this one, burst out. Let the gallows be built, and let him be hanged immediately. What need is there to keep him around longer? Gobel, one of the local farmers, sneered. Hey, right enough, Kifmore. See him dead before he can frighten you to death. What need of trial or king's justice? What? No need to question him and see if perhaps he know where Moel hides himself. See him off now. Question him? Asked the magistrate. Already. You are suggesting that we nurse and nurture him back to health, then ask questions of him, then do away with him? A waste of food and time, I should say. The two went on the main some time, occasional comments from their audience, which did nothing to soothe their tempers. A good deal of the argument was taken up with with what was and was not the king's justice. Kaithether continued to insist that he was the one person who was authorized to administer the king's justice. The farmer, however, suddenly cast an eye on the deputy and smirked. Then turning back to Kefrithor, he said, "I may be wrong, of course, but I think that the deputy's warrant stand up be so, then perhaps it would be best to ask our deputy to solve this question. What say you then, deputy? Shall we hang this fellow immediately, or save him for questioning?" Ethan had been considering the matter. He felt that a leader as careful as Moel would have immediately moved his camp when it seemed that one of his people had been taken prisoner. There was one thing, however, which had to do with the king's justice. It is indeed possible to hang this man immediately, and I could authorize it myself, since he did refuse an order to surrender in the king's name. However, the king's law says that there ought to be a trial, at which the accused person ought to have his chance to make some kind of defense. Since it is difficult enough to uphold the king's justice in these parts, I feel it is necessary that there should be a trial, to be held as soon as this man is capable of speaking in his own defense. Kefrithor looked down, putting a hand to his beard, and muttered darkly, "This coddling of bandits and evildoers is not a good thing. It was done so in my father's day, and no good will come of it." Ethan, noticing a look of triumph on the farmer's face, felt this say more. The bandit Moel has shown himself to be a cautious leader. When he finds that one of his men is missing, he will assuredly move his camp. We may gain the knowledge of his old camp from this bandit, though I seriously doubt it will do us good. The king's justice. The outcome, however, was quite different from the expectations of anyone in the village of Alphabreus. 3 days later, Kefrithor came to speak to the deputy. Walking behind the magistrate was the old farmer who had been admitting to paying Moel's extortion. Ethan, seeing Kefrithor's face, knew that something was seriously wrong. Kefrithor, his desperation at the news he bore outweighing his fear of the deputy's authority, broke into immediate and indignant speech. "Well, deputy, what do you plan to do? This man bears a message from Moel, who demands that the man we have in prison be released immediately, or he, Moel, will come upon us and destroy our town and all in it. What will you do with this, deputy?" "Gently, Kefrithor, gently. I have a feeling that this is a test for us, a test to see if we have the will to stand against Moel. Let us once yield to him, and demanding taxes not merely from the outlying farmers, but from this very town. And if we surrender to him on this one point, we will find difficulty standing up to him later on. We will send a message by the farmer that we hold a man who has broken the king's law, and that to release him the demands of a bandit will be in itself a breach of the king's law. Regrettably, we must refuse to comply with his demand." The magistrate was nearly dancing with frustration and desperation. "If we send such a message, Moel will surely attack." "All the better. We can stop going out fruitlessly hunting for him then." But, you, we, he." Kefrithor sputtered incoherently for a while, then managed to slow down enough to speak properly. "You are accountable, deputy." Ethan merely looked at him. "So I am," he said, "but the king, not you." Kefrithor looked at him for several heartbeats, then turned away. "He will not like you for that," said Rogue, once the magistrate was out of earshot. "No, he will not. Considering the odds, would it perhaps be better to turn the bet over?" The last time we took them by surprise, throwing rocks and making dragon images will not be enough this time, I think. No, I think not. Noel will be ready with his paper and probably use it the moment he sees me or you, for the matter of that. We must, therefore, make a plan that takes all this into account. The two found themselves in a quiet corner where they could talk without being interrupted. With care, giving consideration to the paucity of forces on which they could count, and considering what they thought was likely a strategy for Moel to follow, they worked out a plan. That done, they went to find Tywell and Glass. Tywell they found easily enough, visiting Saker company for duty, particularly if you could leave her with the impression he was doing this on her behalf. Ethan, unwilling to discuss the situation in the company of any townspeople until they had made plans, waited until they got outside into the street before he spoke. What I wish you to do, Tywell, is to find Glass and gather the guards together. Come along to the inn when you have them assembled. We have serious troubles, and we must make ready. What is it, deputy? Are we about to be attacked? What is it? Ethan gave a slow grin. I would prefer, Tywell, not to have to tell the story once to each of our guards. When we are all gathered, I will tell everyone at once. Suffice it to say that the matter is very serious. One more thing, he said as the young man turned to go. Tywell turned an inquiring face back at him. I do not wish to hear too many rumors among townspeople. There will be many of those, but the men who work with me will not involve themselves in such talk. He is understood. Yes, deputy. Ethan was quite pleased when Tyrell and Glass, along with the lads of the guard, in over an hour. He told him the situation and the plan that he and Rog had worked out. It all depends, said Ethan, after having outlined the plan, on seeing Moel before he sees us. To that end, we shall set up an outpost system, with 2 men and fast horses up the road to watch for his approach. 2 of you in case there should be trouble, such as Moel's scouts coming upon you unawares. With 2, there is a chance that at least one will get away. And remember, it does not matter what else happens, so long as the town is warned. If the 2 of you start out together, one horse goes lame, the man with the sound mount must go on. Must on no account stop or even slow up. The town must be warned. Is that understood? There was a chorus of assent. Tywell, Glass, take charge of setting the watches. Not too long at a spell. No one likes sitting in a clump of snow-covered willows waiting for bandits to come along. So consider how long you would wish to spend on guard. Report to me when it is done. I just have to mark up real quick here. Thrilled with the excitement. I'm sorry I have to write this down while I still have it in my head. Otherwise, it's just going to go away, and I need it for when I'm working on the final edits of this, which see. Probably going to be more like June or something. We're going to see. We'll talk more about that later. Uh, I'm sorry, it's taking too long. I got quiet because I was busy writing the notes and not talking, which sounds kind of bad. Well, especially when you're supposed to be streaming, and dead air is bad. And then there's also a matter of the other chapters I'm trying to find now. Hold on. 12, 13, there we go. 13. Haha. Super professional, super organized. That is me. Okay. Okay. Chapter 15. Nathan had worked out the best possibility for using the gifts. He stacked small piles of rocks in several places around the town. When the bandits came, he would come out wearing the shoes and move from one place to another rapidly before Moelle could see him and blast him with the magic paper. As for Rogue, Rajay, I will figure this out. I will. It's a made-up name. I have no way of consulting the person who created this name. Rogge. It's either Roger, Rogue, probably not Rogue. Roger? Well, for all say no, because then there'd be an accent. There's no accent. It's just Raj. Maybe Raj. Ooh, maybe Raj. Rog. I'm gonna call him Rog for now because I don't know. But I think Raj sounds better. But that's probably not his name. I don't know. Sorry. As for Raj, it was possible for him to send his illusions almost anywhere. It would not be necessary for him to be out in the open at all. The third day, following the original message, another farmer, the same area came in with a further message. They come to me in the morning, this bunch on horseback. I knows who they are, even before I sees the bald man at their head. He wants you to take a message to the town, they says. Having heard too much of them, I agree. Before they think they has to convince me. Well then, they says, pass this message on. Here be the words, as close as I can recall them. Moelle is willing to forgive a temporary lapse in obedience, and if his man is freed immediately, nothing more need be said. However, if he is not released, the town will suffer. And that be it. The farmer stood waiting, looking at the faces of the deputy and the magistrate, and seeming to take a little delight in the distress Cyfraithur displayed. Ethan turned to the farmer. Please leave us for a while. We will have to consider this news. With a little bob of the head, the farmer withdrew. Cyfraithur was extremely agitated. Deputy, we can't afford to stand against Moelle if he comes with all his men and the magic paper as well. You have too little trust in me and the men I have trained, Cyfraithur, and I have made plans and preparations, as you have seen. Plans? Preparations? Piles of stone here and there around the town? You may have confidence in me, I think. Listen, this is probably better than I have ever dared hope for. Just kill or capture him. The rest will scatter and can probably be taken individually. Kill or capture Moel? You are dreaming, deputy. He has a large band of men with him. You have one magician of doubtful quality and a few young men who've never even been tried. Best we try to live with Moel as ugh. Best we try to live with Moel as best we can until the time that the king sends troops to deal with him. Moel shook his head. That time will become belonging to pay for. And when it does, perhaps Moel will be so secure in his position that he cannot be driven out. What then? No, we resist. We have to resist and resist now. We will not release it. And by my authority as deputy, I declare the matter closed. This left Kyfrathor no option but to depart, looking quite grim. Raj had another bad evening. Waking from a deep sleep was not visible to Ethan, who again did what he could for the wizard. Shortly after Raj had dropped off to sleep again, Ethan was forced to wake him. The two young men of the guard who had been on the watch this particular night were a wood-crafty pair, hunters who knew well how to wait with patience for the game to come to them. Moel did indeed send out scouts of his own to find and dispose of the sentries, but the sentries were too alert for that. The moment they had determined that the armed men were determined that armed men were seeking them, they were up on their horses and riding for town. Ethan put on the shoes, took up the rod, and wakened, mm, woke, wakened, woke. Raj woke up slowly and was somewhat confused when he did awake. His eyes were a little wild, but when he saw only Ethan and the messenger, he calmed somewhat. His voice shook only a little when he said, "What is it?" "Bandits on the way to town. It is time for us to make ready to receive them." "Bandits? Bandits?" "Yes, Moel and his men. We have to make ready." Irked by Raj's inability to get a hold of himself at this important time, he nevertheless hid his irritation as best he could. Yes, make ready." He sat up a little, looking from side to side as though searching for something. Ethan, begrudging the precious moments, laid a firm hand on the wizard's shoulder. Raj shivered a bit, then seemed to take hold of himself. "Are you ready now?" Raj nodded. "Yes. Allow me a moment or two to dress. I shall be ready." Waiting only a moment more to judge how much the wizard would be able to help, Ethan went out to take a position beside one of his piles of rocks. He had chosen medium-sized rocks this time, not boulders, since he was planning on throwing them further and faster. But he was quite sure of doing enough damage if he could hit anyone. He stared out into the cold night, waiting for some sound of approaching bandits. The guard, with their weapons ready, were at positions deeper in the town. If Moel saw any group of men, he was likely to blast them down on sight. If they remained hidden long enough, however, he could do serve like to close quarters, and bandits became scattered. It seemed likely that he could give Moel a nasty surprise if he was expecting to take his man out of prison without trouble. The first intimation that Ethan's plan would not work as intended came with a sudden flickering of bluish light. The deputy looked up to see balls of blue lightning atop every house within his view. The lights dashed along the roof poles from side to side, not consuming the wood, but only giving the town an eerie aspect. There was a sudden gust of mad laughter, and a face swooped down out of the darkness at him, a grotesque parody of a human face, mouth twisted in mirth. Ethan automatically threw a stone at it, a stone which went right through without disturbing the face or the laughter. The face went by over his head, still laughing. He turned to see it receding and entering a house. Well, that's an odd place to end it. I mean, there's a reason why this is a rough draft, and I'm going to have to write notes about that. But that's pretty much all for tonight. I don't know. I mean, I'm interested. I want to find out what happens next. I'm just hoping that the chapters 15 and 16 mesh really well together, or are more seamless than the trial that you did not see on screen because reasons. Probably because it was long and boring. But it still needed to be there, which that's one of the notes I was writing. Anyway, thank you everybody who's tuning in. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm going to sign off for tonight. I'm going to continue to make some notes, and I don't need to tack that on at the end. I'll let you guys go off to do the rest of your things in the evening, and I will talk to you all again tomorrow night. So thank you. Bye.